Okay, so it's 6:01 on November 23rd, 2021. I call this meeting of the Wellfleet Select Board to order in accordance with the temporary suspension and enhancement of the open meeting law as allowed by the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The first item on the agenda is public comments and open sessions. Public comments must be brief, and the board will not deliberate on any matter raised solely during public comments. Are there any? Janet?
Yes, hi. Let me undo this. I would like to congratulate our town and all the townspeople who recycle and our DPW. We're listed as being 7th out of 15 towns that recycle, but that we also recycle quite a lot. You know, we're the 7th most, and we're one of the smallest towns. So congratulations, everybody, for the effort you put in to recycle.
And I have one announcement, and that's that the school committee, Betsy Pontius, has resigned. And the school committee is really looking to fill that seat as soon as possible until the next election. So if anybody is interested in volunteering for the school committee, I would encourage you to step forward and apply to the town. Okay, yeah, might be a couple minutes late. And then I'm going to take something out of order, if that's okay with the board.
Depends on what it is.
Okay, so it's the appointment of the new Wellfleet police officer. He has a flight in 10 minutes.
Wow.
So.
Okay, let me get my papers in order.
Yeah, so
You want me to-
this is under 5A.
I move to approve the appointment of full-time police officer Eric F. Daly, subject to a successful acceptance and subsequent completion of the Massachusetts Police Training Council.
Ellen, second.
Okay, I know he's on here somewhere.
There he is.
All right. Well, before we vote, I'd very much like to thank you for applying. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I have a roll call vote?
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion
All right,
carries.
at this time, if I have any pre-borders going to St. Louis, you are welcome to work.
Yeah. Motion carries 4-0.
Travel safe, wear that mask.
Yeah.
Come
And this
back
is the
home.
chief. I just wanted to say thank you to the board for Eric's appointment this evening. We are very excited and looking forward to him in the academy and joining the community. So, and thank you for taking it out of order.
Okay.
You're
Good
very
luck on your
welcome.
flight. I know that you have to run to catch it, so.
Thank you as well. Thank you, board.
All right,
Thank you,
so
Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Anyone from St. Louis, you're welcome to board.
All right. So the next order of business is the consent calendar, or the consent agenda. That's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So without objection, I will waive the reading of the consent agenda. And then are there any objections to any of these items? Okay. So without objections, I will declare the consent agenda approved. And again, I really thank everybody that has applied to join various committees, and welcome aboard our new building inspector. So, which we badly need. Okay, next order of business is COVID-19 updates and recommendations. Rebecca?
All I have to report is that there are 12 active cases in Wellfleet. There was 100 people that showed up for the testing site last Friday. They will not get those results back until tomorrow night. So far we only have 12 active cases, and that's it.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, did we just vote on the consent agenda to approve it?
I declared it passed. There's no objections.
I know, but don't we have to vote to approve it?
No,
You sure?
yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so and Hillary did check in with Rebecca and said that she wasn't able to make it tonight. So that's Rebecca's, conveying information from Hillary. On that, I would like to move on to public hearings. So the first public hearing, or first. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
Wellfleet Wine and Spirits.
Yeah. So the first public hearing, so I opened the public hearing. And the first public hearing is Wellfleet Wine and Spirits to extend their liquor license. Through, yeah, what's the date?
January 15th. Says January 15th, 2022.
Okay, and Jeannie, is that allowable?
Hang on, let me unmute her. Okay, Jean, you should be able to talk.
The extension is allowable,
Okay,
but the public hearing wasn't publicized until 7, so I don't even know if these people are on yet.
okay. Our meeting starts at 6.
Well, when we had the thing, your meetings didn't start at 6.
Yeah, with daylight savings, it switches to 6.
Okay,
But on
but
that, I guess we'll have to hold off on the public hearings until 7.
Okay,
So use of town property. I'm gonna ask if we can take the Chamber of Commerce's request out of order first. I think in the John Tansey has withdrawn his application and joined the Shellfish Advisory Board. But I would like to take, for the use of town property, I would like to take the Chamber of Commerce's request first. I think it's a quicker vote. Is that okay with everybody else?
that's fine with me.
Okay.
Are we going to are they going to be wearing masks, or do they know that if there's a lot of people which there usually is, that they have to be masked? Or what's the story?
Hillary explained to them that they're going to be standing next to each other and singing. They do need to wear their masks.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Do you want me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
I move I move the use of the, Rebecca, I move the use of the lawn at Town Hall for the annual tree lighting and sing-along on December 11th for a fee of $110 and shall comply with any conditions set by the department heads.
Ellen, second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Mike, are you on? He's muted.
He was on.
Michael, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. On to Max at the Pier. So Charlie, can you present on this, please?
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Where is the paperwork? Ugh.
We are on item 6, use of town property, Max at the Pier.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ryan. So this is the license agreement that you've seen in the past. It was developed by town council. The term would be for 1 year. and which I think is good. And it'll be, January 1st. So during the winter, this time frame, the select board can review this matter and make sure they're comfortable. And I think it's fair to Mac Hayes in that if there's an issue, he has time to deal with it and address it. The license fee, the annual license fee would be $7,500, and that money would be paid, deposited in the Marina Enterprise Fund. And Mr. Hay, I believe is on the call, by the way. He has included a site plan, which we'll use at Exhibit A. And obviously the lion's share of the issue is the location of the picnic tables. And then also he would be having a couple of trash containers you can see in the plan, and then a 8x10 walk-in cooler. So I think that's, other than that, I believe this is the same agreement that you've seen in the past.
Helen?
Yes, a couple of things. I have a question through you to Mac. You are designated in the contract, in the agreement form, as the person who can sign. Can you legally represent any Belvaren LLC with your sole signature?
I don't actually see Mac on here.
Oh, great. It's not a trust, so he's not a trustee. And I would just say, pending the agreement, that we find out the answer to that. It may be perfectly possible that he has been designated to sign it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I don't feel we have to change this, otherwise, to my mind, good agreement, finally. I appreciate it. But in the language, there are two places where the town has to know that the insurance company has been communicated with. And I would like to just have put into the record, it doesn't have to be redrafted, the contract, that we expect, or we require, or we wish the Belvaren LLC to copy the town with the licensees with their communication document to the insurer, requiring that they contact the town in the event of. In other words, the insurer is supposed to contact us, but I want to know that they've been told that. And that it could just be a copy of an email, just to copy us with the email. And that's all I have to say. I'm very glad this is happening, and I really love Section 4, which for the public, if they haven't read it, absolutely guarantees that that public space can be used by anybody. It isn't exclusively for use by Max. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say we can easily amend this as licensee. We can either put his name there and then / officer of, or we could just put officer of Belvernon LLC. And if he's a president or chair or officer, he can sign for it,
Okay. John?
Isn't this something the town council would have already looked into? And if not, why not? It seems to me that that's in their purview.
Town council drafted this.
Yeah, I understand that. And it seems to me that they should have covered this issue.
They did. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry. So yeah, they had drafted it. I had checked with Mac to find out what the limited liability corporation, the name was, and who the principal authorized person that could execute the agreement, and it is Mac Hay.
Excellent.
Okay, I have a couple questions myself, and then I'll go to Kathleen. The first is that the license agreement does not specify the number of picnic tables that can be employed at the location. There's currently 14 there. That's up from 12 from last year. Every year it seems to add 2 more tables and the rows keep getting pushed further and further out. I personally would like to see a defined limit on the number of tables that can be employed at that location. I don't know. Okay, Kathleen.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. To answer Helen's concern, Mac Hay is the sole designator for Bell Vernon LLC. He has been now for almost 2 years.
Okay, so to the board, do we want to put any language as to the number of picnic tables at this location?
I'm not ready. There we go. I think it might be a good idea. However, I'm not prepared tonight to personally to designate a number. I'd like to go down and look or discuss it. I haven't seen what 14 tables really look like there. So good idea, but I'd like to wait
Okay.
for that.
Ellen?
Is that how many there were there this summer? 14?
Yes.
Okay, so I have gone down there and I have eaten sandwiches on the bench there, not on the tables. And I think my thought was there are too many and they're too close together considering, even though it's outdoors. And I would like to ask to have it restricted to 10 tables because there are other places to sit there on benches and stuff for the public. And why don't we cut it back to 10? And not have that in the contract, just say, use of town property, 10 tables. And then I have a question. Whose tables are they now? Because we were told in the past, it was just word of mouth that they were donated to the town. And yet the restaurant very kindly maintains them and puts them out and, makes
So,
sure. So
Helen,
who owns them?
Max does. We've had communications from the DPW director to that effect.
Okay, good. We pinned it down. The tables are owned by Max, and I would be fine with having it just be 10 tables, given that there are other places for people to sit around there. Thank you.
Okay, John?
If we're going to set a limit on the number of tables, don't you think Max should be part of the discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie did tell him that this was on the agenda tonight. So,
I think we need to give him time to respond to this, but as I said, I think, I don't know. I'm not ready to set a number, so.
okay, Mike?
I'd be fine with setting it at its current limit, the current number. And I think that was implied by the agreement. And I think when we first started discussing, well, not when we first started this, when this came up again this summer, the board was pretty clear we didn't want to see any more tables. So I kind of feel like, they're still open to the public. They're still, they're utilized, and I just don't see the purpose. I don't see the reason or necessity to reduce that number. This is a license agreement where the town is being compensated to some degree while maintaining non-exclusive rights. So meaning the public in its entirety has access to these. So I think it's a little bit arbitrary to just go back to 10 or whatever it is. I don't really have a problem with what it is, so long as it doesn't expand anymore. And that's basically it. I'd be fine with setting it at what it is, and I think that would close this issue off tonight, and not continue down the road haggling over 1 or 2 picnic tables.
Okay, John?
I agree with Mike. If we keep it at the current number, I'd be prepared to vote on it tonight. If we want to limit it beyond, below this, I wouldn't be comfortable voting on this until we bring Mac into it.
Okay, so just so you know, there are 8-person tables. There's 14 of them. It's 112 seats.
Yeah.
Just for
Eight.
those tables themselves.
You think you can get 8 people? That's pretty squished on a picnic table. Is that what it says? Eight
Yeah.
people per table?
There are 8-person picnic tables.
Sure.
Hey,
Ryan?
you can get 4 on a side.
But do you-
Um, Mike,
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I know they're 8-person tables, but oftentimes like two groups of people will share a table and sit quite far apart on those tables. You see it pretty often, and you know, I've never seen 8 people to a table on 14 tables going down there. So I know there's a capacity there, but the logistics and the reality of it don't seem to be utilized that way.
okay, Helen,
Yeah, even if it was only 4 people at a table, we'd be giving that restaurant shareable access to 56 seats. If it's 6 people to a table, it's 84 seats. And I want to say this again, I really noticed how congested it was this summer with that many tables. And what was there previous years felt better in a lot of ways. And that's, so, you know, it's whatever we vote, but I don't think we should have a number in here. I think we should see how it goes and then limit it next year if this comes up again.
Well, what if we put 16 next year then? I mean, if
Well,
you don't put it in the agreement, how is there an agreement?
okay, well, I would not be for 14 in any case. I think they've been not sneaking, excuse me, that was wrong. They've been adding tables steadily, and it really was better last year. Am I the only person who went there and sat and ate this summer?
No, I ate there.
I've
Okay,
eaten there a number of times.
okay, well, we've discussed it and we all know how we feel. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. And we can continue to discuss.
okay,
I move to approve the agreement with Max at the pier as amended with a limit of 14 picnic tables.
I'll second.
okay. Any further discussion or are you ready to vote?
I'm going to vote for it, but I don't like the numbers. Thank you.
Then don't vote for it.
No, I like the contract. That's what's important. Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, no.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. All right, so let's see, it's not 7 yet. Okay. Finance work plan. Charlie, is there any updates for the board or not?
Yes, thank you. So obviously you all know that we worked really closely with the Department of Revenue and we got the tax rate set. The residential rate is $7.78 per thousand, and the commercial industrial personal is $7.43 per thousand. Tax bills went out on November 18th, and they're due on December 20th. So obviously, I'd like to thank the whole financial team that worked together on this, and of course, the assistance of the Department of Revenue. More significantly, in my report, I'd mentioned that our town treasurer, Miriam Spencer, has given her notice of resignation. I received it on Monday, the 15th, and its effective date is December 1st, 2021. Now, obviously, you know, we've been making relative progress on our work plan. We've had some vacancies through authorized leave in the town accountant's office. We've been doing our best on that front, and now this is another setback, frankly. And what I will do, you'll see it in my next report, is I'll appoint Mary McIsaac as our interim town treasurer. And you all know Mary has a lot of experience as a town treasurer in other communities. So she'll certainly do a good job for us. But it's going to distract from some of the goals that we had set. I did work with Lisa and Mary and Rebecca roughly, and we did place an ad for a town treasurer position in the newspaper. It's going to be on the website. It's really something that we need to critically move on. So we're going to just test the marketplace to see if there's someone out there. And I'd like to do that sooner than later, because this is, even if we find someone who, might be an assistant in another community, this would be a wonderful opportunity because, they could work directly with Lisa and Mary. So it would be a terrific, mentoring opportunity. Anyway, we're working on that. Mary and Lisa are still working on some of the other issues, but it's obviously impacting some of the goals. We had mentioned in the past that we had hoped to close out FY20 and FY20 by the end of December and apply for free cash certification in early January. We shall see. I suspect that'll be unfortunately delayed a little bit. And it's kind of a bitter pill for us because we've made a lot of progress, but we still have a lot to do. But it's our reality, and we'll do the best we can. We did meet with a representative from the Department of Revenue on November 15th. They're helping us with the financial forecast document. That's going to be a critical tool. So when I present the budgets, when I present the budget sometime in December, we will have a financial forecast for fiscal year 2023, and it'll look out over a 5-year window. But, thank you to the Department of Revenue for assisting us with that project. And we kind of work on it every day when we have a few minutes. I mentioned before, I hired Judy Sprague, who's retired from Com Fire District. She's helping me with the budget in the annual town meeting draft warrant. She and I will work together with the department heads through the month of December to put a budget together, and so that we can present a fiscal 2023 budget to the select board and to the finance committee right after the holidays. So we're making some progress on that project. The annual town the auditors are supposed to be coming here on December 13th. We do have a Zoom conference call, Lisa, Mary, myself, with the agents from Sullivan and Powers sometime next week. And, we were really focused on having this audit start on December 13th, but we need to sit down and talk to them to make sure we're ready for them. Obviously, Lisa and Mary are they've got a lot of balls in the air. And if we just want to make sure if we have them in here on December 13th, that we're going to be ready for them. It might frankly be delayed a short period. But that's okay, as long as we can get this audit done when Lisa and Mary are here. That's the critical element. And then we continue to meet with a subcommittee of the Finance Committee to provide more in-depth updates relative to our progress. There's 3 members of that subcommittee, and they've been productive and helpful. And so we're really happy to continue that dialogue and include the Finance Committee at a higher level relative to our work product. So I think that's all I really have on the financial issues.
Okay, John?
Yeah, how will this affect Mary's ability to, she's got her hands full with the forensic work. Is that, I guess that's going to kind of slow things down in that department, won't it?
Yeah, it's definitely, let's face it, Lisa's already been compromised because of the authorized leave in that office. And now it's going to be further compromised because Mary is going to have to dedicate some of her time and resources to fill in for the treasurer's position until we hire somebody. But, Lisa and Mary are, we're really fortunate to have them. I think you all know that. Even we were talking today, and they're going to be working this weekend on it.
It strikes me that we may have to be prepared to keep you and your team on a little longer than we anticipated.
Yeah. Listen, we're committed to finishing the job. I'll be honest with you. We thought we'd be further along than we are right now, and we are all retired, and we kind of like being retired. We're anxious to get some of these critical tasks done. But anyway, we're going to be there for you and for the community, and we'll just have to manage around this a little bit.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. So at this point, I'd actually like to take 95 Lawrence Road out of order. I'm sorry that we're doing this kind of like all over the place tonight. But they had asked if they could go earlier, and right now, yeah, they're being able to present at 6:30. I think they'll probably be pretty happy with that. So who's presenting? Is it Harry or Elaine or?
Rebecca, can you unmute Elaine?
I did.
Okay.
Hey, Elaine.
Hi, Ryan, and good evening to the board, and thank you for taking us out of order. And we'll try to be as brief as we can to save room for questions, and we will just get right into it. As you know, from our report that we sent at the November 8th meeting of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force, our 8-member group voted 7-1 to recommend that POA CDP be our recommendation to the select board for the development of the up to 46 units of affordable housing at Lawrence Road. We were asked, in addition to the report that we submitted with our reasonings for selecting POA, to present additional information that gave more of an overview of all the proposals. So we do have a PowerPoint that we'd like to share to be the framework for our presentation tonight.
Hang on 1 second, Elaine, I'll just let you share.
You'll let me share? I thought you were going to do that. Okay.
Oh, hang on, I think I can. Hold on 1 second.
Rebecca, what can't you do?
Yeah. While Rebecca's looking for that, okay. What we would like to do very much is work through this PowerPoint quickly and then take your questions afterwards. I think that would be the best way to do it. And just a little bit more of an introduction. As you know, we received 3 proposals from Preservation of Affordable Housing and the Community Development Partnership from the community builders, and from Civico. We were really grateful to have this kind of response to the RFP. I'm going to ask a couple of members of the board to help tonight, and I'm going to ask Harry Turkanian to start us off by reviewing the process. And if you could allow Harry to do that.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you, Mr. Curley. I just wanted to give you a framework for the process. And, requests for proposals, RFPs, are designed to give a town's desire to solicit goods and services wide publicity and to provide a level playing field for evaluating the responses. And I won't go through in detail, but basically the RFP has to contain the criteria that the town is going to use to evaluate the proposals. And the selection must be based on the evaluation criteria in the RFP. The Inspector General's manual on this is quite clear, and that's in effect what we've done. We've gone through, I think, 14 meetings, many of them running to 2 hours, where we've discussed the criteria. We've been on site visits. We've viewed presentations by the 3 developers. And ultimately, we've generated a document, which is in your packet, which identifies how each of the 8 task force members ranked each of the 3 developers on each of the 7 criteria that were in the request for proposals, and how those were, collectively scored. So you can see that POA CDP was ranked highest. It's important to note that the proposals, we can only hold the developers to these proposals through December 2nd. If the process goes beyond that, we need the responding developers to agree to hold their proposals open. They would be free to withdraw them beyond that date. So basically what the select board really has to do is to either review and evaluate the task force did and determine that we did a good job and adopt our recommendation, or you've got to basically apply the evaluation criteria yourself and come up with your own ranking. So with that, I think we need to get back to the substance. The following slides give you a sample of the things that we talked about. It's not all inclusive. That would be a PowerPoint presentation that would stretch into Wednesday. But we wanted to try and hit the high points with this. And with that, I'll just one other thing, and along with the list of things we did also consult with the wastewater committee on these proposals as well. So in addition to everything else we listed in the PowerPoint slide, we also did that. Thank you.
Rebecca, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. That was, this is summarizing what Harry just said of all the steps that we went through. Okay, next slide. We were asked for a summary of what was in the RFP, and a lot of the pieces of the RFP were pretty nitty gritty, and they would be answered, and there was no other way of answering it. But then there are a lot of pieces of the RFP that would respond to our requests, but as the developers in their expertise and their creativity would do. So of course, all 3 proposals looked at what we were requesting differently, which is really what we wanted, to be able to have a choice. But the ones we listed in the summary that are really probably what most people care about include that we asked for a mix of affordable units that would serve people from 30% of the area median income up to 120. We said it could be a mix of residential buildings, large and small, We wanted it to be very sensitive to the neighborhood, be energy efficient, parking, a design layout that met the needs of many household sizes and mobility, things like soundproofing between, providing storage space, community spaces, into outside lighting that was more of a dark sky kind of lighting. And we had asked for 2 access points on Lawrence Road. For the developer team itself, the RFP requested a developer and a team that had significant experience in the development of projects of similar scope. And that included design, permitting, financing, marketing, and management. So if we could go to the next slide, we tried to do a very broad brush summary based on the criteria, the 7 criteria areas. And under each criteria area, there were subsections, and all were discussed in detail. And then each member came up with their one rating for each criteria. So on these slides, we've listed our the ratings as given by the 8 members, and then some of the major points. And for the developer and the development team, as you can see, under POA and TCB both have many, many years of experience. Civico is a newer player in the game, and they have been doing both mixed and affordable housing for 6 years. One of the big pieces of the RFP for rental housing is to have excellent management. And POA has, and both TCB offer in-house management through programs that they have used over the years to manage and provide tenant services. Civico did not propose, Civico proposed to use a third-party management. They don't handle management themselves, but they do try to select a manager as needed. And this would be part-time management with 24-hour on-call service. As you can see, POA with 12,000 units, 509 on Cape Cod, TCB with 13,000. Civico has about 300 in the pipeline. I put experience with MassWorks under POA. It's very likely that TCB in their long tenure has experience with MassWorks, and it wasn't clear from Civico's proposal if they do. But I listed it under POA CDP because they most recently helped the town of Brewster get a MassWorks grant for their infrastructure. And we are, of course, still hoping and wanting to do that for our wastewater treatment plant. POA and TCB are nonprofit developers. Civico is a for-profit developer. Next slide, please. Affordability, a very, very important category. And this also points out some differences in our proposals. Both POA and CDP and the community builders are proposing to fund the project mainly through low-income housing tax credits. Civico is proposing to do it through debt and amortizing mortgage debt. In terms of the low-income housing tax credits, this is money that is available to developers who have at least 40% of their development is affordable to people earning 60% or less of the area median income. And why is that important? If you could go to the next slide. We worked very hard with the Cape Cod Commission a while back to really drill down into Wellfleet's the wages of many of our working people. And we feel like this slide shows that the proposals that are proposing using low-income housing tax credits will serve people, single-family household from 30%, which would be about $20,000 a year, and a 4-person household, which would be $30,000. And at 60% of area median income, $40,000 for 1 person and $48,000 for a 4-person household. So you can see that we're really targeting the range of much of our workforce. This was something, our proposal, that we really wanted to address this need at this time. The POA proposal is the one that most fully meets what we were looking for. If we could go back one, Rebecca, I'm sorry. Oh, no, the other direction.
Yeah, hold on. I got to figure out how to do that.
I just wanted to say that in our proposal, the most highly advantageous was looking for a mix of homes that would serve people from 30% to 110 or 120% of area median income. So that, in essence, means anyone from $20,000 a year up to $75,000 for 1 person, up at 120%, or up to $106,000 for a family of 4 at 120%. So POA's proposal actually came, their potential to meet that range was the highest, and their proposal was offered more affordability than the 2 other proposals. So predominantly serving really the incomes of our workforce through 3/4 or more of the development, but having a small proportion that was really moving into the workforce housing. Okay, next slide. And then the one beyond that. We wanted to give you a look at the mix of the units and the proposed rents, so you could see what we are looking at. The POA proposal for their 2 and 3 bedroom apartments meets the DHC guidelines for family housing. And you can see rents from, that's kind of hard to see, 900 and some odd up to 1,600, which is really great range. The next slide, please. Okay. Can we go full screen on this under present?
Yep, hang on 1 second.
Sure. The community, the TCB unit mix, they didn't quite meet the DHCD threshold for 2 and 3 bedroom units. And there were 8 small studio units, which we felt might have been too much of that small a size. And the next slide. And Civica's unit mix and their affordability, unfortunately, really did not meet the intent and what we did propose in the RFP. They have only 4 units at 60% of area median income. And the rest are all quite a bit higher. And this was not the intent really of our RFP. We'd love to do a project serving the higher mix. I hope our next project will be that, but this was one area where we felt like Civica didn't quite meet the intent of the RFP. Okay, let's move on. Infrastructure and green design. All 3 proposals are proposing all electric systems using heat pumps. We felt that POA's proposal made the strongest and clearest commitment to energy efficiency, proposing the net zero energy use with solar panels and passive house design. They also proposed a solar storage system. So in case of a power outage, people would have a place to go to charge their phones and things like that. I thought that was a very, very exciting and important part of their proposal. TCB and Civico both proposed to meet energy standards that were acceptable in the proposal, but did not wanted to talk more with the town about whether to really go to use solar panels and go the full way. So we felt definitely that POA in this day and age gave a proposal that the town could be really proud of and could be a model. We can go on. Okay. This is the one that's probably the most subjective of all the components and the site design and building design. And it's also probably the component that as the selected developer would go through the process of meeting with the town, working out the LDA, meeting with the abutters, and of course, going through the permitting process, you might see the most changes. And you can also see how our ratings are kind of much more diverse for this one. For the POA proposal, I think I made a mistake there. I think it's nine buildings that they proposed for the site. TCB and Civico both have put 16 buildings on the site. As best as we could see from the proposals and the graphics and the charts provided, the POA proposal appears to maintain the widest buffer for abutters and really uses only 50% of the site for actual building. Another important thing for us was with the management and with tenant services that there be indoor community areas, common areas. The POA proposal proposed two, one in the upper village part and one in the lower village. TCB proposed one indoor community space, and Civico, because they've gone in a different direction, which we can talk a little bit more with the visuals coming up, did not propose any common community space. Maybe not as important, but POA, the POA CD proposal proposed shared laundry facilities in the community spaces, which in essence are much more energy efficient as their whole proposal proposes. And TCB did propose laundry units in each apartment, and it was not clear if Civico was proposing that. Next slide, please. Okay, and then these are just visuals from the proposal that informed our thoughts about the design. And this is showing POA's entire development on the site. And you can see it leaves a large green buffer to abutting properties, and is also leaving that much of a green buffer is another sustainable part of the development, we felt. Next one. Next slide, Rebecca. Okay. This gives you an idea that the slide on the left is what they're calling, what's the upper village, which is 7 buildings housing either 3 or 4 2- and 3-bedroom apartments with the street down the middle. So they're facing each other, which we felt had a community feel to it. The lower village has an apartment building with 22 apartments with an elevator. And we know that this is a new sort of way to look at a housing in Wellfleet. But we feel that with limited land, and if we're going to house the people that need homes, we do have to start to look at density and attractive density. This apartment building also is the most energy efficient, which will probably achieve a net zero rating. And the little community building for the upper village is that picture at the bottom. And there's a community space within the apartment building. Okay, next. This shows TCB's layout, showing all the buildings on one side of a road. It comes closer to the water tower. It appears to use a bit more of the space than POA's. And next slide. Okay. The photo on the bottom in the middle kind of shows the grouping of the houses in the upper part of the site. Those buildings will hold 2 or 5 apartments in the upper village, and down below you see 5 buildings. The feeling of this one was that it just wasn't quite as organized or as well situated on the site. But once again, that is a subjective thing. But that was our feeling about that. And the next one. And Civico's proposal put buildings that would house 4 apartments each, going all the way around the site, which definitely did use up more of the site than the other proposals. And we were concerned about the treatment of the water tower, which we were informed could certainly be dealt with by, we had the engineer for the water department speak with us about all the proposals and felt they all could be worked on during the permitting process, but just felt that this was more buildings and just a little more, a less open space than POA's proposal. Next slide. Under financial feasibility, we did hire a very experienced housing consultant to review the financial pro formas. It took a while, as you know, but we did finally get someone to do it. In general, the POA and the CDP proposal, let me see, they met. Okay. I haven't talked this long in a long time, I'm sorry. The POA and CD proposal, really what you want to find out in general is if they are reasonable and feasible. And POA's is, the consultant pointed out one part of their financial proposal, which could be a concern, which was they are proposing a tax abatement. Which is not uncommon, but it is an interesting possibility. But in their proposal, they also noted that if this was not something the town wanted to do, they would be happy to work out another plan. The tax abatement applies only to a small portion of what they want to borrow in terms of making it all work. Both POA and TCB are looking to borrow at least $15 million in low-income housing tax credits, and only a small portion of funding could be affected by a tax abatement or not. In the TCB proposal, there was a concern, once again, feasible and reasonable, a concern about a 10-year note as opposed to 30 or 40 years, as many are, that could cause some vulnerability. And the Civico proposal did not have all the detail that the consultant needed to make a full determination on this. But she did report that it relies heavily on amortizing a first mortgage debt, and that this makes the plan and its affordability objectives more vulnerable to interest rate and operating expense risk. So you can see that every proposal has really strong points and a few points that whoever is selected would need to work with the town closely to refine it and make sure it was fully embraced by the town. But we felt in the areas that were so important that POA really was strong in their experience, in their management, in including a local organization in their management team. Their lead architect and the firm, their architect has a home in Wellfleet, I'm sure cares about the community. Their energy efficiency was such a strong part of their proposal. Their management that they're so well known for. Next slide. Okay. In terms of references, site visits and interviews, every proposer got very high references from everybody we called. Site visits showed apartment buildings and homes that were well maintained. And I hope a lot of you got to watch the interviews that we did with all three. So just, we're ready to take your questions, but I just did want to one more time go through our report. I think I just did all the points of how for 7 of us, POA came to the top for their management, for their energy efficient proposal, for their experience, and the financial feasibility, which we did feel, we were told by both the consultant, our MHP consultant and our financial consultant, that it was definitely something that could be worked on. We'd love to take your questions. There's a lot that got condensed into this. We feel that the town could work very confidently with POA to achieve this very, very important project. And we're happy to answer questions and follow up in any way that you'd like.
Elaine, if I could.
Yeah, go
If
ahead,
I could,
Larry.
yeah, if I could just add just a couple of very quick closing comments. We found the site visits were very, very helpful. We got to talk with managers. We got to see apartments inside and out. We got to see maintenance spaces inside and out. We got to see both POA and TCB run on-site wastewater treatment facilities on at least one of their projects. We even got invited into one apartment by one of the residents who wanted to show us where she lived. She was so proud of it. So I just really wanted to make note of the fact that both TCB and POA are running projects that have existing on-site wastewater treatment facilities, so that they're familiar with what's involved in those kinds of systems. And thank you.
Okay, so before we go to questions, I really want to thank the hard work that's gone into this. That this is a project that Wellfleet should be pretty excited about. I mean, it's extremely important. So on that, John?
I saw that POA was shown as having a number of projects already completed on the Cape. When I watched part of the presentation on YouTube, I saw that, what was the third firm? Starts with a C.
Civico.
Civico had mentioned that they had some on the Cape. I didn't see anything about TCB, although based on what I've seen just now, I think I'd be comfortable with POA or TCB, but I was curious as to how many projects TCB has running on the Cape.
Elaine?
Well, TCB has done Province Landing in Provincetown, the 50-unit apartment complex. And TCB actually was just also awarded the contract to do, is that the veterans or the VFW that Provincetown is doing, which is another 40 to 50 unit apartment building. One of a concern, it's not a definite concern, but that with TCB getting the Provincetown job, it could produce some competition for funding for Wellfleet.
I see.
Yeah, John, TCB runs Lake Street Terrace in Chatham, which we did visit, and Osprey Lane in Sandwich, which we did not visit.
Okay, well, good. I'm satisfied to, see that they do have projects running here. I understand your concerns, Elaine. I do like what they, what I saw from their presentation.
And just to be clear, the evaluation committee is recommending the POA CDP proposal.
Correct.
And they rated it having 40 highly advantageous. The community builders was 31. Civico was 18. And then for advantageous, POA was 6. TCB was 17 and Civico was 29. And there are two, yeah. So yeah. All right, Helen.
Yes, a couple things through you to Elaine. Back in the day, the greatest need for rental units was for one-person households, 1-bedroom households, which could have a couple too. Is that still the case? Because one of the things I liked about POA's proposal was that they had a large number of single household units, single person, one person possibly was somebody joining them.
Through you, Mr. Jones?
Go ahead, Elaine.
Okay. We definitely know that there is a huge demand for one-bedroom apartments. But at the same time, we definitely want to and need to encourage family housing. So we did feel the POA proposal met those two goals quite well with the apartment building with 22, well, it's 1 and 2 bedroom, mostly 1 bedroom. Recently, I know that Ted Malone redid his waiting lists for all his properties. And I think 80% were for single 1-bedroom homes. So it is very, very important. But we also do want 2 and 3-bedroom homes to encourage and keep families here.
And can you elaborate on the where some of the 3-bedroom and the 2 bedrooms and the state standards and what that means for funding?
Right. For the two proposals that are seeking low-income housing tax credits, having a certain number of 2 and 3 bedrooms gives you a better, stronger proposal for your funding.
Okay.
Yep. And you also have to have 10% of your units be 3-bedroom, which everybody did achieve. But POA's proposal met DHCD's requirement, and TCB's was a little less. Civico's, because they're not going for low income housing tax credit, but they will be looking for some soft funding from DHCD. I don't know how that would fly with them.
Okay. Helen, did you have any other?
No, sorry, I
okay.
didn't put my hand down.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to clarify a few things. So, Mike?
Yeah. So I spent the better part of the weekend pouring through all of all of your meetings and reviewing all the proposals again, and I really appreciate the amount of time and work that went into the evaluation. You guys did a great job, and I know there was a lot of work that went into this. Initially, I was really excited about the Civico plan. I think if I could choose just based on design and site plan, and the sort of outside of the box thinking that they use to scale the density and make it really look, I mean, I think that really looks like a beautiful neighborhood that they designed. And I went through and ranked everything, and you know, I think that you guys wound up in the right place as far as what the RFP asked for and what came out on top. I didn't quite expect it when I went through it myself, but I probably would have ranked Civico a little bit higher. And I do have some concerns about the POA, the 20 unit building and the necessity of that scale when we've seen the other proposals spreading the density out a little bit and not having so much shared wall space. And maybe that's something that can be worked out as they go through the permitting process, because I know there's some zoning relief that would be needed for that building anyway. And I you know, I really am pretty blown away by, you know, the proposals in general, but I just wanted to ask a couple questions about the POA design, because I know it's passive, and I couldn't tell from the RFP, do the windows open in the units, or are they fixed windows with just ventilation systems? Do we know that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I might. In their presentation, POA said that each room would have at least 2 operable windows. I know there's a lot of thought about passive houses, that's not possible, but that is not true. They're definitely proposing operable windows and big and beautiful windows to look out on the landscape in the back and at their neighbors who hopefully, you know, will be forming in that community. But definitely one of the other proposers spoke incorrectly about passive housing, and that it doesn't have operable windows, and that's not at all true. The other interesting thing about passive housing is it, in a power outage, the home, either in winter or summer, retains its heat for up to 5 days without power. So I think, you know, in many of the housing workshops I go to, people are saying it's time to be bold. And I think proposing a development that's net zero or as close to net zero as possible, and that looks at density by design. I mean, yes, Civico certainly did density by design, but I think we can see this and should see this as density by design as we go forward to house the number of people that really need homes. And I hope we can really look at the concept of a handsome apartment building as something that really serves a purpose.
Okay. Mike, did you have?
Yeah, just had a couple other questions. I could also, is there sidewalks on the road proposed? Or is it just the road, one-way road that?
That was a question I had too. And I don't see sidewalks. I think you certainly would want to request that. The one thing that we did like about POA's proposal, especially for the upper village with the 2 and 3 bedroom homes, is that they pulled the parking off the street. I think all the other developments have the parking. Well, no, TCB up top didn't either, for the most part. Civicos did have parking on the street all the way around. So having it pulled off the street certainly, I think, is a plus. But I didn't see walkways either, but I think that should be easy enough to do, and certainly something that the town would want to talk about.
Okay, and the only other issue I was wondering about was storage space in the units. Was there any storage space proposed, any outdoor closet, shed, basement type thing, or is it basically what's in the unit?
Does anybody else want to take that one? I know we definitely want there to be enough storage for the residents. I know in the lower building for POA, they proposed, if need be, there could be a basement for storage, but I don't know if you saw, if you noticed that the size of the apartments is really, really pretty generous. So hopefully enough storage there, but I don't think anybody proposed any outdoor storage areas.
No, but Elaine, at least on the Long Pond Village, the larger village in POA's project, they do show tenant storage in the basement of the larger building. I think the smaller buildings, I don't know what the situation is there.
It was the smaller building, the smaller community building in their proposal that said if it was determined it would be helpful, there could be a basement put in there.
Mike, are you done?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, Janet.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. This has been a long time coming, and Elaine, you are amazing, amazing for sticking through this for so long. I mean, I know for you, it's probably been 15 years working on something like this. So I like POA's presentation, and nothing is perfect, but this is really as good. And I like the design. I think it's well suited. So I'm all for this.
Okay. So I have a couple questions. One is the unrestricted income bracket for the POA proposal. In their proposal, that it's pegged to a certain what's affordable for a certain income bracket. I think it was like 57,000 or something like that. Is there any guarantee that those rates are going to be held going forward?
No, there's no guarantee, but POA chose the method to go about that as offering a better chance, as opposed to going for workforce housing funds. We found that at Nauset Green, who Nauset Green had wanted to get up to 110 or 120%, but by using the workforce housing, there's a formula, I can't explain it, but they were only able to get up to 99 or 95% by using workforce housing. POA is going to look at a different way to try to reach that broad range.
Okay, Gary, you're muted. Can you unmute him, Rebecca?
You should be good.
No.
Gary, you have to unmute yourself after she gives you permission.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
So two things. The question about the storage, the upper village in the POA are the 2 and 3 bedrooms. So they have more square footage in those facilities, and they have some storage space within those in their closets and things. So it's really the 1 bedroom that really have the greatest need for additional storage, and that could potentially be in the basement of the lower village.
Okay.
And the other question, if I understood your question correctly, Ryan, was that although the dollars can increase as the wages increase, the percentage remains the same. So when they get the funding from the state, the low-income tax credits, so if it's a 30%, then that same percentage would apply throughout the life of the apartment.
Yeah, that wasn't for the ones that are income restricted. I was asking about the ones that are not income restricted.
Ryan, if I can just read you what they wrote in their proposal, it's just a couple sentences.
Yep.
This is POA's on affordability. It's on page 30. It says, in response to this report, we are proposing that 3/4 of the units be affordable to families and households earning incomes of 60% AMI or less, with 17% of those units targeted to deeper affordability levels, 30 to 50% of AMI. For the remaining 1/4 of the units, rent levels will be targeted to households earning between 60 and 80% of AMI. Now, there's a little bit of wiggle language in there, but that's the bold-faced statement.
Yeah, I would like some assurances that the rents are kept reasonable for those units in the future. And then the shared laundry facilities, like for the upper village, which is, has a small common, I don't know, common building. And in that, there's like what I would say appears to be a fairly small laundry room. I'm concerned about there not being sufficient laundry facilities on site to meet the needs of the tenants. And I would, for the ones that are targeting families, like the 3-bedroom units, I would prefer to have laundry facilities inside of those units, because they might have small children, and running out to use a shared common one if infants wet the bed is really inconvenient in the middle of the night.
Well, Ryan.
Yep.
We did visit on our site visits. One of the developments, which I think was 30 apartments, had shared laundry facility. A couple of them did. And the washing machines are bigger. They're more efficient. So potentially a family with 3 kids could get all their laundry done in one fell swoop. And I talked to some people at Nauset Green who have in-unit laundries. There can be issues, and one of the people I talked to felt like the shared laundry helped create community, because that shared laundry is also in the building where people would come get their mail, where they could meet, the community meeting room. So that was a rationale that kind of came through to me, at least when we visited it and saw shared laundry facilities in operation. And it's part of the efficiency too.
Yeah, I'm still concerned that there might not be sufficient laundry facilities on site. And then the last thing for me is I do think it's a little light on the parking, where it's 1.3 parking spots per unit.
I think it's different in the upper and lower. All three developments. With full
Elaine,
parking is an issue. Mhm.
yeah, we raised this issue during the presentations, and the answer we got back, because one of them proposed, I think, 1.1 parking spaces per unit, and one proposed, I think, 1.3 or something. And that's below the 1.5 spaces that the zoning bylaw requires. And the response was two things. One, that with a lot of studio or one-bedroom units, you're going to see tenants with only one vehicle per household. And then the second one was, in other projects we've done, it's been adequate.
Yeah.
So they felt they could defend that choice.
I mean, it's the adequacy of parking is kind of determined by the access to public transportation. And I think we all know that, I mean, we're very fortunate to have the flex bus. But I think we all know that a lot of people just have to rely on having a vehicles or vehicles to basically do anything out here. So, but Elaine?
I just wanted to say, as we did our site visits, it was always brought up that adequate parking made for, a happier development. And so that is definitely one of the things that, the town should be looking at in working with the developer to, make changes as needed. The land disposition agreement gives the town a chance to do that. Certainly zoning does that. I think it was TCB that pointed out that there is public parking, it's town parking right by the baseball field. And so potentially they felt like on weekends and with visitors coming, there is additional parking in that general area, but we wouldn't want it to become a concern between the school and the development. But that's definitely, put that on your list to talk about.
Helen?
Yes, I want to double down on what Ryan said, and also Elaine's example of laundromats being community spaces. The one thing I questioned in the POA presentation was, I think we've got 3 large community spaces that are excellent here in town. People also, if they want to have like a book club or something like that, they can do it in their own apartments. And in fact, they do. But I use laundromats for, 67 to 99. I rented the whole time in different places. And having enough well-maintained washers and dryers is essential. And I would rather not have 2 community spaces, but have more storage and a really excellent laundromat room that's open 24/7. And I agree with Ryan about the fact that larger families, particularly if they have small children, you can't go trotting across to put quarters in the dryer to dry the 3rd load you have to do at 10:30 at night when your kid's sleeping. And, it's too much. And if you have a big family, it's too much. So I agree with Ryan that the apartments that have more bedrooms should have their own washer and dryer. And there should be more storage space, less need for solely, community spaces dedicated as that. Thank you.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I also, that was the one aspect of the proposal that I wasn't so keen on, that I did like about the TCB proposal. I do think that in-house or, in-unit laundry capability is important. Even if there are some common facilities, it would be, I think, advantageous that especially the larger units at least have hookups for washers and dryers. The concerns about having to leave small children while you attend to these things, and possibly in very inclement weather at night. I think that is a shortcoming that should be addressed. And on the parking issue, keep in mind that, we're talking about tradespeople that will be, in some cases, renting these units. And I'm thinking in terms of a young couple, one person of which might be a carpenter or a mechanic or a shellfish person, and have a truck, and the other partner having a job that they have to commute to. I think that's something that needs to be borne in mind as a practical matter.
Okay. So I think we're ready to vote, though. So if we move to approve the proposal right now, would it be as it's drafted, or would there be additional changes later on?
Well, if I may, there's an opportunity as the land disposition agreement's negotiated to address some of these points. And also, I think all of the developers are mindful of the fact that these are proposals that will be refined as the permitting process takes place. All of these proposals will require zoning approval, so there'll be public hearings and public input at that time. So it's, at this point, it's a proposal. It's not the construction drawings.
Okay, so if we approve the proposal, there's I mean, I know with the ZBA, there might be some changes to accommodate that, but so if we approve the proposal, there's still time for some changes to be incorporated.
Yeah, and actually what you're doing is you're selecting a developer as opposed to specifically approving every detail of this design.
Okay, so then, Mike and then Elaine. And
I
then,
was just gonna make the motion if you wanted.
okay.
I move to accept the recommendation of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force to select POA CDP to develop the rental housing at 95 Lawrence Road,
Second.
Wellfleet, Mass. 02667.
Second. Can I have a roll call vote?
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, well, thank you.
We'd like to thank you folks for confidence you've expressed in our judgment and recognition of the work that we did. And we hope that this will be a feather in Wellfleet's cap going forward. Thank you.
Yep, and I hope it's something that we can build off of as well going forward. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I need to go to the public hearings. So in accordance with MGL Chapter 138, notice is hereby given that the Wellfleet the Wellfleet Select Board will hold a virtual public hearing on Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider the request from Wellfleet Wine and Spirits manager Marfeta and New Fleet Corporation manager Jeffrey Baker to extend the seasonal liquor licenses to January 15th, 2022. So the first one is Wellfleet Wine and Spirits.
They just need to raise their hands so
Yep.
I can see them on the list.
Let's see if they're here. I don't see it.
No, I don't see him
Yes.
either.
Well, there's an iPad, Nilesh's iPad
Oh, that might be it. Where's that?
right there. It
Yes.
just came down.
Yep, I
Okay.
just unmuted them.
Yeah, you guys can see me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Hi, board. How are you?
Good.
Good evening, everybody.
Janet, do you have your hand up?
I do.
Okay.
So without this really referring to any particular liquor store in town, I just want to give people some background on select board choices with extending liquor licenses and a number of other rulings we've had that first of all, winter in Wellfleet is very quiet, and this to me seems to be one of the quieter winters. And I know that every small business is probably not doing a lot of business this time of year. So that's one thing to consider with an extension, just how it's going to affect the other long year-round liquor stores. And the other side is it seemed like both of these liquor stores are not just an individual owner, but they're a corporation, and they have other stores on the Cape and places. And then finally, it's always been considered how many liquor stores we have and how many liquor stores we have year round. And again, things change, but that there's always been the feeling in town that we have enough. So I will just throw that out there and listen to the rest of the board.
Yeah. So it's one liquor store and one restaurant, just to be clear.
Well, who's the restaurant?
New Fleet Corporation, which does business as Trailside.
Oh, okay. Gee, that didn't come across at all in my packet. Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, I am wondering, I'm sorry, is your name Nilesh?
Nilesh
Nilesh.
Marfatia, yes, sir.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, are you intending to get a year-round liquor license?
I most likely that is my intent to go down the road if I can get the year-round liquor license. Yes.
Okay, I think we've had, a increase in population enough to warrant something like that. But I also get a little bit concerned about the amount of extensions and it being fair to the current year-round licenses. So, I mean, in this case, I don't think it makes too big of a difference. It's not a very long period of time, but it is through the holidays. And then, those liquor stores are going to have to carry on business after the holidays through the dead slow months, which is kind of their benefit of having their year-round license. Is that like this period of time could maybe get them through that really slow spring that we have on the Outer Cape. And I know this is your first year and not even a full year running the business there.
That's right.
You took over this summer, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just took over like a month ago on
a
October
month.
21st.
Okay, so you just basically got the business.
This is my first month actually. Yeah.
Okay, and I remember you saying that you were hoping to operate year-round in the future.
If I can, otherwise at least a January 15, 20, that's what I, like you mentioned, that like a good 2 season we have, then I have to shut down for the 2.5 months because I have to carry over all the expenses for the 4 months as well while we close, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, so, but at least a good 2 season we can get up to January 15, so we can get the Thanksgiving and the Christmas for this year, you know what I mean? At least I'm gonna get the Thanksgiving, but the 1 more season left for that, so.
Okay. Helen?
Yeah, a question through you to Jane McLaughlin. Jane, we've just had our population, increase calibrated by the, ABCC. And doesn't that mean our number of allowed licenses in a number of categories has gone up? Doesn't that change how many we can grant?
So that's a seasonal population, but if you can, Jeannie, if you can answer.
It has not, the state has not changed the quota.
Okay.
Right now, the town is allowed 2 annual package store licenses.
Right. And how many seasonal?
I think it's unlimited.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so right now, I'm going to say something I've said again in this kind of discussion. And I agree with Mike. We have to keep in mind all the businesses, and particularly those that stay open in the, deadest part of the year. But selling liquor in Wellfleet, given that, well, that's a business that persists pretty well. I don't want to tell any business how to regulate their budget. In other words, they have to, as we just heard from Mr., and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Nilesh.
Nilesh, yeah, perfect.
Nilesh, yes.
Yeah.
We heard one story. They all have their own needs and their own, fluctuations, depending on things not just seasonal. And I would like to allow as many businesses as possible to prosper. Therefore, I would recommend, I'm going to vote for granting this seasonal license. Thank you.
Janet?
I'm sorry, I just didn't put my hand down. Sorry.
Okay. Mike, I saw you just took your hand down.
Yeah, I
too.
just noticed mine was down, but I would make a motion and I would support this at this time, particularly because this business really just changed hands and.
Okay. Would you care to make the motion?
Let me find it here.
You want me to do
Somebody
it?
else has it available. I'll
So I move to approve the extension of the Wellfleet Wine and Spirits liquor license to January 15th, 2022.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Michael,
John, aye.
aye. Michael, aye.
Brian, I.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you, Nilesh.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Thank you, board, and everybody have a nice Thanksgiving.
Okay.
You too.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so New Fleet Corporation, DBA Trailside Dining. Okay, is Jeff Baker or Steve Giovanni?
Yep, he's right here.
Okay. All right.
Steve D. Giovanni.
Yep. Can you, I don't know, explain why you're seeking the extension?
Looking to extend, we had several inquiries, local businesses to have holiday parties, Christmas parties.
Okay. And how will you handle the parking for those?
Fortunately, we're not expecting more than about 75 to 80 people, and there's 52 spaces on the premises.
Okay. Helen?
Couple things. I congratulate you for inhabiting that space, which was up for rent.
Thank
or
you.
Use, and I wish you well with it. However, that particular location has the capacity to have music be heard far to the west. And the previous business had a number of situations where working people were kept up. And the noise was audible very far away. Now, I want to be sure, Mr. Di Giovanni, that you know that we have a noise bylaw. That means that whatever the event, it can't be audible past 10 o'clock. It's very specific. You can read it. It's in the general bylaws.
Sure.
Are you aware of that?
I am. Just so you know, for this particular extension, these would be indoor events, within the restaurant. Anything outdoor, we certainly would be abiding by any and all bylaws, whether it be fire or police or noise ordinance.
That would be good, because there has been a real problem with that here and there in the town over the years, and people
Okay.
need to be able to sleep
Okay.
or rest. So thank you.
Janet?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, are you new owners? Are you leasing? Is this, something that you're gonna do just through the next few months, or, are you owners
No,
or
we-
leasers?
We're actually both. We are looking for an operational team presently, and we're interviewing some local talent in the area. We hope next year to apply for full-time. So we'd like to go the 12 months. I don't know. I'll check with Gene on when we have to do the application for that come spring. But we're looking to do lunch and dinner, and also, have whether it be weddings or anniversaries. Again, as mentioned earlier, well within, if it's outdoors, well within the bylaws on a number of issues.
So my question was, do you own it, or are
Yeah,
you leasing
I'm
it?
sorry, I thought I said both. We own it, the property and the restaurant, but we're also looking to engage with some local talent, chefs and front of the house, wait staff, et cetera, bartenders, to run it as a full year-round restaurant starting next year.
Okay, and are you aware of all the complaints you got for the, what was it, the Oyster Slam a couple weeks ago, that it was kind of out of hand, and people, we got major complaints about the danger of people crossing over Route 6, too many people there, unmasked. So I hope you realize the responsibilities of having kind of temporary parties or temporary events, that you still have to be mindful.
Very much so. I met with the captain of the police department, the fire department, and the lieutenant from the police department about a week and a half ago. Addressed all those issues. We've talked to our neighbors. We have parking set up with our neighbors, Bob's and Matt Frazier, as well as the Wellfleet Drive-In. So if we do have another one, we're going to have, we actually requested police detail, and unfortunately they couldn't fill it. There weren't enough volunteers to fill that request. But we're definitely working with the police and fire department if we go forward.
Well, it's also as important to work with the health department, and that because of your septic size and the size of your room, and I'll say the size of the outside too, that there is a limit to the number of people who you can have attend.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happened a couple weeks ago when it was way overfilled?
I don't think it was. We actually had people utilize the facility indoors for bathroom use.
Yeah, so I think you've got to really brush up on regulations, because when people are parking on the side of the highway and using other businesses to park there, my obvious guess is that there were too many people there for the septic that your restaurant allows. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm just pointing that out. You got to listen to, you've got to really know our bylaws and the health department's regulations.
Okay. So John, and then I'm going to ask hear from Chief Hurley or Lieutenant LaRocco.
Yeah, I should have taken my hand down because Janet brought up the very concerns that I was going to bring up, the recent events.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
So Chief Hurley or Lieutenant LaRocco, can you explain some of the concerns that you encountered at this location?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, typically these aren't issues we weigh in on, extensions and stuff, just that there happened to be an incident with some complaints that were filed, from neighbors and passing motorists. Clearly is a concern, especially the location on the highway there. We have met with the staff there, the captain and the lieutenant. I mean, I have no doubt moving forward, if we can stay within the bounds of town bylaws and liquor regulations, that we should be okay. But I just felt the need to just bring those concerns forward to the board for their decision tonight.
Okay, so yeah, Mike.
I did actually go by there, and it was my understanding that more people showed up to that event than they were expecting. And I don't know, I've never met the owners of the restaurant, but I don't think that there had been any sort of limit or expectation that the event would get as big as it was by certainly the hosts of the event. So anyways, I just thought I'd bring that up, and I definitely would urge the owners to make sure that they're not above capacity, and that they do speak with the and police and fire when they do hold an event. But I don't actually think that that's pertinent to this liquor license extension. I don't think they intentionally violated anything.
So, I mean, included in the Chief Hurley and Lieutenant LaRocco's report says that they are planning to hold a third event on December 11th, and is looking to expand this event into the parking lot. He's advised that he's spoken with Wellfleet Cinemas to reserve parking up to 150 cars, that he would rent the Funk bus to transport people to 842 Route 6. And then Mr. Giovanni currently has the permission to park cars in Bob's Southern Cone, Matt Frazier's Lot, and Grace Chapel. That is a huge amount of parking. That's 150 spots at the theater. However many spots are, I mean, the Grace Chapel is a huge parking lot. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did not remember that memo. I did not notice that memo.
What I was trying to do there, Mr. Chair, was alleviate, one of the concerns was parking on the Route 6. When I met with the police department, that was the biggest concern, and people coming across Route 6. So I am not going to utilize the permission from Grace Chapel to use their parking at the suggestion of the police department. I just want to make sure there was ample parking for coming and going, addressing again any issues that people may be parking on Route 6.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, a couple things. Please do, as Janet said, check with the health agent about what your capacity is supposed to be. The thing that nobody's brought up, I'm sure you've considered it because it's what we do these days during the pandemic, is that's a lot of people. It's cold out and you're going to be indoors, and it could turn into a super spreader event. And what?
Oh, I'm sorry, just to cut you off for a second, it's nothing indoors.
Oh, it's all outdoors on December 11th. Okay, fine.
I'm sorry, the only indoors is when people are going to, and I have an attendant, is just to use the bathrooms.
Okay, so the second thing I wanted to say is Apparently, you should be aware, and you're new to the community or whatever, so it's all coming into your mind now. That if you have a truck distributing something to eat or drink, like we have a whole food truck bylaw, also ask our health agent about that, because apparently you had a beer truck. Nothing wrong with a beer truck, but you might need to get permitted for that in order to be able to dispense liquor from it.
I actually did, Helen, on that. There's no beer truck. It was a setup. There was no truck, and we're not looking to have any food trucks or any beer trucks.
So it was a setup? Well, I'm sorry, forgive me, I don't know what that means.
It was a refrigeration where it had beer kegs with taps.
Yeah, it's a beer truck. You were dispensing from a beer truck. And anyway, here's the point. As Janet said, you need to, get everything right and dot your I's. And again, we welcome you to the community. Thank you.
So he's not new.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So John?
Yeah, it would help to know what the overall capacity of the place is, because that's, as someone pointed out, that's an awful lot of parking vis-a-vis the size of the building. And I'm not sure how well thought out all this is.
In what sense?
Well, you're talking about being able to park people at adjoining businesses, the movie theater. I guess you just said you're not going to use the Grace Chapel, but still, the movie theater parking lot, which is across the highway.
Well, but they'd actually be bus. We were looking at hiring either the Funk Bus or Cape Cab. I just wanted to, again, address the major issues that there were people crossing Route 6 and that there were people parking on Route 6. And it runs from 11:30 to 5:30. So there certainly isn't everyone comes at the same time. People are coming and going. I just want to address the parking issue. That's why I asked our neighbors at Wellfleet Drive-In whether or not I could utilize their facility to make sure the people weren't crossing and there was ample parking.
Okay, yeah, maybe I misunderstood the nature of the event.
Okay.
Okay, Janet?
So I think we need clarity on your business plan. I think we need to know what is your capacity for people being outside, because that capacity is dependent upon your bathroom facilities, food. You've got a beer truck. Are people walking around with beer? I'm not even aware if you had a liquor license then. I think Jean McLaughlin told me that you did. This seems like a party place, not a place for private parties, but a party place. And I think you really have to be clear on how many people you can have. Usually when a restaurant has a parking lot with it, the parking lot is dependent upon the amount of people the restaurant can hold. So you say you're not using your restaurant, but you're using all the land around it. I mean, I really want a better business plan and capacity and what your liquor license is really for, where you're serving it. I don't know. It just sounds a little bit too loose to be. It just doesn't sound right to me.
Well, if I may, this is the third event we were doing. We were looking at doing. We know the Oyster Fest was closed this year because I know there.
No, so I want to know what you're doing and where is it written down.
I'm just giving you a little bit of history of why we did it. We thought we'd open up to the community. We joined with Holbrook Oyster and Hog Island. Those were the two companies that we did the two events with. We were looking at doing one more in the wintertime, and we picked December 11th for that. So it is the last time we're looking to do it on an outside event. We are looking to run a restaurant starting in April. It's 125 seat capacity inside. I did talk to the health department on the first event and let her know exactly what we were doing. And she knows Holbrook Oyster well, so the food handling out of the commercial kitchen was not going to be an issue. So we're looking to do one more event and inside events for Christmas and the holidays for the remainder of this year into January, and then close till April of next year and do a full service restaurant. That's the short answer for the business plan. That's why we're looking for the extension.
Okay, before I go to the other board members again, Jeannie?
Yes, their liquor license states that they can serve outside. They have it, it's included in their liquor license, inside and outside or on the bocce court. And as Steve said, their capacity inside is 125. I don't know if there's an outside capacity number.
Well, if they're I'm just going to butt in. So if they're serving food, if the party is outside, I would think, I mean, the capacity is usually based upon your septic. That's a big part of the capacity, right?
Yes.
So
Table service,
say that again, Mike.
for table service only.
I know, for table service. So in having a number of tables. But I just think if you have something outside, you have to limit it to that amount of people as inside. I could be wrong, but I mean, there are way more than 125 people there, I'm gonna guess, because I drove by that place twice on Saturday. So you've really got to have way more control than you think you do. But I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, again, that's why, Helen, I was looking to work closely with the fire department and the police department on this.
They want you to take care of it. They don't want to have to be called there.
Well,
You
no,
should
no,
take
I'm looking to hire a detail. As I said, I requested a detail on the second event, and unfortunately, it couldn't be filled. I looked for 2 police officers, and I'm now requesting 3 for this one.
Okay, Chief Hurley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, not so germane to this conversation this evening, but I just, anybody that is requesting police services for details, traffic, or whatever it may be, does not absolve them from any of their licensing. And I'm not saying just this business. This has come up during Oyster Fest and other events in town. If we can fulfill the request and be there for safety and vehicles and miscellaneous, but we're not there to count people. We're not there to babysit people. That's not our job. So it doesn't absolve anybody from their licensing responsibilities when they hire detail officers.
I totally agree, Chief, and we have a staff of 15 people that will be, responsible for that on that day. The other events are all indoor, like I said, under, 80 people. And right now we haven't given full answers, but we have 3 to 4 requests right now for holiday indoor celebrations.
Okay, Mike?
I think we just have 2 issues here. And one is whether we're going to extend the liquor license. And the other is that when there's events held there, they're in compliance with our bylaws and regulations. And I think that what we're here to do for the public hearing is to determine whether to extend their liquor license. And I think it warrants, because of the previous events, the acknowledgement of the applicant that they will comply with our bylaws and regulations in future events. And, your liquor license is in jeopardy if you are not in compliance with your license and what's required there. So if there's people being served in the parking lot or somewhere they're not allowed to be served in the license, that's, that's something that would not be in compliance with the liquor license extension. As far as having parties and events, I think, that's really determined by our bylaws and regulations, and it's private property, and we need to make sure that people are following those. But I think that just to bring things back, we should consider whether we're just going to extend this license right now, with the expectation that the applicant is going to not risk their liquor license by non-compliance of the actual license provisions.
Agreed and understood. Thank you.
Helen?
Yeah, a couple things. I'm not sure young people in day-glow vests are quite what might be needed in terms of regulating the surge that you might get with an event that's taking off. And I love big community events, but I'd like to remind you all that we decided not to do the Oyster Fest 2 years in a row because of the pandemic. So Mr. DiGiovanni, if you can't get police detail from Wellfleet, please get it from somewhere else, and also I would think if things began to roll towards too much, that you would turn people away. The last thing I wanted to say is, you probably know, but let's just all be reminded, you cannot park on the side of the state highway.
Yes.
You can pull over and text somebody, you can break down, whatever, but you can't use it for parking. And unfortunately, in my neighborhood, that happens sometimes in summer, and it's scary because there are people crossing as if it was Main Street, and it's Route 6 in summer. So it really is a hazard. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, I'd say in view of the foregoing and in view of hopefully lessons learned the last time around, I think it's reasonable for us to consider giving them the benefit of the doubt that going forward that these things will be complied with, and let's go ahead and address the license extension.
Okay.
One
Steve,
more, okay. What I was going to say, one more quick reminder is that last week, the selectmen and the select board and the Board of Health instigated a mandatory mask policy that runs through January something or other.
Okay.
So be aware of that.
Okay.
So
that is enforceable by the health agent.
Steve, have you received similar complaints for other properties that you own?
Similar complaints from properties. I'm not sure I understand.
How many complaints were filed for your properties in Truro?
In 2007, are you referring to, Ryan?
I believe so.
How many? I don't know. It's 2021 now, right? I really don't know how many. A handful of complaints at one particular event that was alleviated on the next one.
Okay, and then earlier this year, you also clear cut a lot in Wellfleet?
Unfortunately, no, that was not me. It was the prospective tenant, and unfortunately, one of his workers got a little overzealous and moved some dirt, and the building inspector gave a cease and desist. So we're the landlord there, and unfortunately, it was a mistake on his part, and that is now being rectified. But I'm not sure how it's relevant.
Okay. So to the board, do we want to grant the extension tonight?
I would vote to grant it. We don't have much going on between now and springtime in town.
Other board members?
Yeah, with the understanding that, you know, the liquor license could be jeopardized with non-compliance, not only the liquor license for these events, but the liquor license for the restaurant itself. Conditionally on that, yes, I would be in favor of it.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, I would too, except that we put out a lot of our concerns and they need to be met.
And they will be.
Good, because we want the town's, should we say, brand or reputation is a better, more old-fashioned word, to be better, you know, to be good, not just to be a party town. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Janet?
I'm kind of interested in extending it, I don't know, for like a month and just seeing what the next few events they have there are like. But I get that it's good to support businesses, and I always do, but you really have to realize that we just don't want this chaos, you know, and that's what it can turn into.
And I hear all of the concerns. I will be putting a call into the health department. I'll looking to follow up with the fire and police. And any other, you know, concerns, I'd be happy to talk to any department. I don't want chaos either. I'm a respectful neighbor in Truro. I'm still not sure of the chairperson's comments, but my family's been here since the early 60s on the Cape. So I'm well aware of being a good neighbor.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move to extend the liquor license of, oh, sorry, what is it called? The Fleet?
New Fleet.
New Fleet Corp, or New Fleet Corporation, until January 15th, 2022.
Ellen second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, no.
Don, aye.
Michael, I.
And abstain.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 3-1. Right,
You've been warned. You've been warned.
All right, thank you.
okay, so Jeannie, you're still with us, so. All right, Jeannie Mac, can you please explain the seasonal population increase? I know we already briefly touched on it.
The ABCC requests to know what the expected population would be in the summer. I think we've been about the same for years, and I think I have it kind of low, but that reflects the quota that each town is allowed. So it could potentially raise, it wouldn't do anything for the seasonal restaurants or anything like that. It wouldn't raise because we're already at unlimited, but it could potentially give us another year-round, say, package store license. And then when these people come in and instead of asking for an extension, they could get a year-round.
Okay, and so
But-
this, we have to vote for to accept the ABCC's determination, essentially.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Janet?
Quick question, just to clarify, does a seasonal population, is it homeowners? It certainly doesn't include people coming to hotels and weekly rentals, does it? Because that would be much higher.
That's what I mean. Well, that's what I meant when I said I think I've figured it too low. Because yes, it includes anybody here seasonally.
Anyone here,
think
yeah.
I think it should be much higher.
Yeah,
What was it before, Jeannie?
It's been 30,000 for years. But the last time I tried to raise it, the board at that time thought it was too high, so they put it back down.
I mean, I've heard 500,000.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know.
That's on the Cape.
Okay.
I think that's on the Cape, but
What would it take to increase it? What would be the ramifications?
Nothing. Nothing. You can decide on a number. You can pick a number out of a hat and vote on it, and I will just change that form and then you sign it.
okay. I mean, I think it should be higher.
You can vote on a number.
I don't feel like I have the I don't feel like I have the data right now to give you a number. Does anybody?
No.
Is there even a way to get that data?
Yeah, you
Somebody-
add up hotel,
Yeah.
motel, rental rooms.
Well, it depends on what
capacity.
period you're sampling too. Like if you have 4th of July week,
Mhm.
I
you know,
know,
that's,
yeah.
yeah. And then, you know, then a week or two later, it's much less. So,
It says as of July 10th, 2022. So I think they're
Yeah.
specifying a date.
Helen?
Yeah, a couple things. Reasonably, if you look at the Cape Cod Commission traffic data, because this includes day trippers, it's who's coming through, who's buying. And it includes everybody. And 20,000, 25,000 is something that happens on big weekends.
It's not day trippers, Helen.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but the thing is that we have people coming through and using the liquor stores and the restaurants. By day trippers, I mean people that come and spend the night, or maybe they go back at night. But I understand what ABCC depends on, but I don't think this is an overestimation. Thank you.
Okay, so I move to approve the 2022 seasonal population increase estimation provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Ryan, I.
Michael, I.
Helen, aye.
Charlie, I forgot to remind you.
He's on. You're good. He's on.
We're good. All right. So we're on to the town administrator town administrator search consultant.
Good evening. My name is Rick White, and thank you for having me. I hope you're gearing up for Thanksgiving. My objective here is just to introduce myself and give you a sense of what our process will be and a general timeline for it. In terms of the general broad picture timeline, I guess I have to preface it is that we're starting recruitment during the recruitment twilight zone period, and that, we've got Thanksgiving, we've got Christmas, we've got other holidays, and then we've got the New Year's that tend to take attention away from the everyday work life and make recruiting difficult. But from a big picture perspective, I expect to be able to have a complete package to the search committee within 6 or 7 weeks. And I'll get into some detail of what I do in those 6 or 7 weeks. And then depending upon the search committee and what their style is, we could wrap that up anywhere between 4 weeks and 5 weeks. But of course, we'd be doing that schedule around, all those holidays. Aside from identifying candidates that we believe are qualified from a technical standpoint, the fit is really important to us. And we do a very deep dive in terms to trying to identify the skills, qualities, qualifications and attributes that we believe that are needed for Wellfleet. And we do that in a couple of ways. First of all, I'm a little familiar with the challenges you've had over the last several months, and the work that Charlie and crew have done, and the position that you're being put in. And that has to be addressed long-term as a priority and a skill set for the new town administrator. But I mentioned fit is very important, and we try to, if it wasn't Thanksgiving, I'd be interviewing all your department heads tomorrow via Zoom, and any other organizational leaders. And, I will get those names and set up appointments through Rebecca for the beginning of next week. Probably, December 5th, is it? Not December, I'm sorry. Let me take a look at the calendar here, I'm sorry. On the 29th, Monday the 29th, I'll try to set up appointments and interview all of your department heads and any other, union leaders or community leaders that you do. From that, I generally try to write a synthesis of the feedback that I've heard for the qualities, attributes, and skill sets that constituency sees as important for your next town administrator. I also asked the Board of Selectmen to give me the names of 10 to 12 community leaders. And I interview those 10 to 12 community leaders and take their feedback and develop a synthesis, a written synthesis. And I present each of them to each of the individual boards, select board members, and interview them, not only on the synthesis of the feedback that we've received from both of those groups, but their perspective. And I write something up for them. So I've got 3 in-depth perspectives from 3 different groups. And generally there are some common themes that you see, but each group has a different perspective of what's needed in the community. And that helps me get a sense for who you need, what you need, and it helps me work with you in doing that. While I'm doing that, I'll be working with Rebecca to begin the advertisement. And from the synthesis, once it's been approved by you, I will develop a profile and I will send it out to more than 100 contacts that we have in Massachusetts and New England to try to generate some interest in the position, if not from the people that get the mailing, but people they may know. I'm also, talking to people right now, talking about the opportunity and what some of the challenges I see, at least preliminarily, to try to get some interest in the position. Once I've got the profile approved by you and have it out and the solicitation letters out and the advertisements out, the applications come in and I review them as they come in individually, and I pre-qualify them as I see them as soon as they come. And when I see someone who I believe is a potential good candidate, I start screening them right away, at least preliminarily, without jeopardizing their confidentiality. And I try very, very hard to get to know each and every single one of the candidates and at least review in general format some of the feedback that I've gotten from the synthesis that's a lot more detailed than you'd get in a, what I'd call an advertising profile that gets a candidate's attention. And I start probing and talking, and I start developing a relationship with those candidates. And those interviews and that contact can vary between 3 to 4 to 5 times before I do a final screening and make recommendations to the screening committee at the end of that 6 to 7 week period. We provide all resumes with a recommendation for the screening committee to interview pre-qualified candidates. But the screening committee has, full authority to and support from us to interview anybody that they want. But we're there to act as staff support and staff resources for the screening committee. I work very closely and have previously with Charlie in Provincetown and a similar recruitment just that we wrapped up. We try to communicate on all levels. The select board in Provincetown, they all had my telephone number. They preferred communication through Charlie from me and updates from Charlie to me, but in other places I've been, the selectmen have asked me to communicate the process and the progress of the process directly to the chair, and the chair made reports to the whole committee. But basically, before the screening committee gets my recommendations, all of the candidates that we recommend will have had a comprehensive vetting process that's done in a way that doesn't compromise their current position. We also will aggressively, based on the synthesis and our understanding of what is needed to be successful with the job, we will start identifying people we know in the field and do outreach to them.
Do you want something to drink?
In most of those, in most cases, in most recruitments, at least half of the finalists have been someone who wasn't thinking of applying for the job, but that we convinced that this was a great opportunity for them and something that they might be interested in. As I mentioned, each screening committee has their own style. Each community has their own style. The screening committee could meet 3 or 4 times, 2 times before they start interviewing candidates. But I suspect that could take anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks, depending on the screening committee. That's a brief overview, generally and then specifically, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Helen?
Yeah, Mr. White, we haven't met yet. I was on a pre-screening search committee. I was chair back a number of town administrators ago. And a couple things. Your expertise is welcome, but our pre-screening search committee has been forewarned that they're going to have to meet very intensively, very shortly after the application deadline closes. That it's an intense period of time, and that 4 to 6 weeks might even, be longer, because applicants drop out. If they're looking for jobs, they might get an opportunity somewhere else before we're ready to, go to the next stage with them. I think that your pre-qualifying people with your, once again, expertise is good. But I also think it's essential that when the applications come in, once the deadline is closed, that the pre-screening committee gets access to all those applications at the same time you do, and then waits for your advice, which is part of the reason we need a consultant, because of your experience, that they don't, that the temptation to be fed the opinion of one person, even if that person really knows what he or she is doing, is something that I think a committee, given that we have some very qualified people on the committee, they need to have a crack at those applicants. They need to look at those resumes right away too, because there might be a lot of them, there might not.
I apologize for being unclear. When the deadline's done, I give the screening committee the complete package.
Oh, good.
my
Okay,
recommendation.
thank you. It sounded as if you would
No,
pre-digest it.
And I support whatever interview process they want. I provide them with sample questions. They're generic, and we work really hard to take the generic questions and make them specific to the communities that we work in. But it provides them with a basis to start questioning. But if a screening committee wants to interview someone that I haven't recommended, and I've already pre-qualified and don't think they're okay, that's your call. That's not my call.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand that.
And I apologize for whatever miscommunication there was.
Well, it might have been my problem, but the other thing I wanted to say is, I asked this of all the people that applied, for an appointment to this committee, are you prepared to give it that kind of intensive attention?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and I really have to say that we might ask them if they want to start, have their initial meeting, which, the startup meeting is you make sure everybody's up to speed about process and so on and so forth. And, they could do that over the next few, during this so-called holiday season. I mean, it is a holiday season, but a lot of people have, time to meet. And this is exciting, and we really need a new TA. And the last thing I wanted to say is, in my experience, I've now worked with, I guess it's 6 different town administrators, counting Charlie. It's really important that they live within decent commuting distance. That turns out to be more important for every single one of them than you would even begin to imagine. And that, of course, is a problem here because of housing. Thank you.
Well, Charlie and I have known each other probably too long, maybe close to 45 years now. And he isn't bashful. He's very direct. I'm very direct. We have a great working relationship. You're the customer. I'm here to serve you. I also look at the candidates as my customer too. And I don't want to put them in a situation where I know that they're going to fail. And the in-depth process that we use to try to understand and define the qualities of the candidates that you need is also replicated in my vetting of them. And that's critical, especially down the Cape. I spent most of my professional career in the greater Boston area, but I spent the last 9 of my years in Dennis. And I was amazed at how unique the Cape was and how retail oriented it was, and how each of the Cape communities has a personality all of their own that every town administrator has to adapt to and to serve. And my own bias is that a rigid rules-oriented, this is the way I do business town administrator isn't going to be successful in the Cape, because it's probably the most intensely retailed position that I held in the 40 years that I did this. And it was a breath of fresh air. I loved every minute of it. But if you can't find someone who is flexible and understands that they're there to serve the community and to understand the community and understand what it needs, then you're not getting a good candidate. And you have special interests here. I mean, you've gone through some very significant challenges that you're just digging yourself out from now. And aside from, some of the organizational and personality and fit issues that you have to do, there are also technical requirements that the next town administrator is going to have to do, working collaboratively and cooperatively with the select board to take what Charlie and the financial staff have accomplished over the last 6 or 9 months and build on it and use it as a community builder and a leadership issue and partnership issue between them and the next select board, so that, you know, something like that never happens again. And someone who can develop systems to make sure that it's monitored, you know, comprehensively, and it's something that you as leaders have a handle on, you know, every meeting that you're at. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying to be as general as possible, but address some of your specific challenges that Charlie's dealing and the staff are dealing with now.
Okay. So I know that Richard White comes highly recommended. He has recently he worked recently with Provincetown and their town administrator search. So so would you be coming back to the board for our priorities, or would it be we
Yes.
would be submit? Okay.
I like to give you the feedback that I get from all those constituency groups so you can see it.
Yeah.
So it can inform your perspective, but I need your perspective. This is the most important relationship the town administrator is going to have is with you.
Okay. All right. So are there any other questions for Richard?
I guess just timeline wise, Ryan.
Yep.
You mentioned putting out the, I'm sorry, I guess I got a little lost in the timeline. When would you be sort of posting the job, do you think?
We can post the job almost immediately.
Okay.
You know, that's a generic thing that you put in ICMA and MMA and you know, whatever other journals you do.
Sure, but we usually have a profile of the town. Is
That'll come in after the synthesis are done, you know, generally within 2 weeks. And that's part of my mass mailing that'll be put on your website. You know, over 100 people, everybody who applies and everybody we solicit from gets a copy of the profile.
Okay. And when do you think applications would be closing?
The specific date, I'm thinking that
approximately
the first week in January, you know, I'd have the first full week in January, I'd have the screening committee meeting. You know, the applications may be complete by, you know, the deadline may be that week, you know, at the end of that week, just to get you over the first of the year.
So January 10th or something like that, you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay. That seems a little short, I guess, to me.
It probably is. I'm trying
through
to
the holiday.
Yeah.
Maybe something like the 15th or something like that, or 21st, or I don't know. I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to capture as many applications as we can.
Yeah, I was really surprised. And, you know, Provincetown is a unique place. And, you know, we probably had a good 12 high quality applicants that the screening committee could have interviewed. We probably had over 100 applicants. I don't expect that you'll see that in Wellfleet, but you know, the goal would be to have 8 really qualified candidates for the screening committee to screen through, that they could, you know, test and probe and poke, and then make recommendations from there.
Okay, thanks.
Helen, if you can keep it brief.
Of course. Mr. Wright, so over the years, some of the community descriptions, you know, that document have been a bit fluffy, and I urge you to have a great deal of data in there and not to romanticize it the way it sometimes happens, even though, you know, it can make for some people the place more attractive. You know, just give them some numbers. because, and let us see it first before it goes out, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
But some hyperbole is really important.
Oh, yeah, he's laughing. I don't know, it's the best place in the world. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I believe we're ready to move on.
All right, thank you very much and happy Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Thanks
So
For your time.
You too.
Charlie, approval of the contract.
Yes, so we sent out 3 proposals. Rick was the only response. The contract is in the amount of $9,920. And I will just say, I have known Rick a long time, and I was really, really pleased that Rick had submitted a proposal.
Okay, so I move to approve.
Brian, I've got a motion that's very crafted, if I may.
Okay,
Yeah. I move to approve the contract agreement with Richard White for consulting services for recruitment and selection of a town administrator for the town of Wellfleet.
okay, in the amount of $9,920.
In the amount of $9,920 and as otherwise printed in the draft contract.
Okay,
With
Second.
dates and
second.
other numbers.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
The good ship Lollipop.
All right, so we have a letter to the county commissioners and the Assembly of Delegates regarding how the county might use the AR. I think I misspelled.
ARPA, yeah.
Yeah, ARPA,
American
ARPA funds.
Act.
Any comments on the proposed letter?
Can I go, Ryan?
Yep, shoot.
So as far as I know, and there was just something, was it in the Cape Cod Times or the newspaper, I'll say, the funds are distributed, or the county is saying where they go, that there's a discrepancy with who's going to say what, but they are designated for infrastructure, and that includes high-speed internet or high def or whatever you want to call it throughout the Cape, water infrastructure. I just forgot the third one. Waste and water, internet. All right, I'll think of it by the end of it. I mean, I've had it on my mind all day, and it's getting late.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to wait, or talk to the county, that they're the ones in charge of distributing it. It could be roads and infrastructure.
So 1 second, Janet. Charlie?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so all of those broad categories, I think that the only thing I would say is the county received $41 million. That was really a reflection on a per capita allocation for all of the permanent residents on Cape Cod. These monies will be distributed to the communities through a process. I am sort of an advocate of a very simple process, is they do the allocation based upon the population, the way the federal government established it. And so in Wellfleet's case, that we get our per capita allocation, just like every other town. They tell us the categories that under the ARPA mechanism, broadband, housing, wastewater, infrastructure, and that the select board then has the authority to decide where those monies are spent. So I'd like to have more power locally, but just with a governor and restrictions about where we can spend those monies, because if they have a process, that means they're going to have to spend time and money to administer it. And I think we can do that locally.
Yeah, and so I want to send this letter because the county did not seem to realize that it can be used for housing. And right now, that's the most critical and urgent need on the Cape, is to address. And even if it's, I mean, I'm not saying use all of it, the county should, but they should consider at the very least using some of it to support housing. And we need to get it on their plate. They're due to discuss it again on the 29th. So, and there's going to be an ongoing discussion between the county commissioners and the Assembly of Delegates. But they also have made it clear that they also are asking for feedback on how to use the funds as well. So I think getting a foot in the fire is important. Mike?
Yeah, sorry, Ryan. I know you sent this to me before and I never really took the time to address it.
Oh, the first one was, I threw that one away.
Okay. That's okay, because I didn't have time to deal with it at all anyways, and I obviously didn't even really read it, so I apologize for that. I would like to mention in here what Charlie brought up, because I think it's the cleanest way for us to spend the money and for the county to actually allocate the funds per capita and allow local control over how the money's spent. So if we could add that in here and then make a separate plea also on top of this for that to be the process that they use, I'd like that. I'm not going to comment on the letter. It probably maybe a little longer than it needs to be, but I didn't take the time to write it, so I'm not gonna nitpick here. So, but if we can sort of add in that, we believe that these funds should be distributed to communities based on their population or something to that effect, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, Helen?
Yeah, this came up quite a few years ago and in another situation. And the trouble with basing it on population is there are a whole lot more people that use the community, use the infrastructure, use housing than are counted in our population numbers. And we all know that. So it should not just be, I think, fairly based on population, but it should also be based on how many people come through here. And we got some indication of it in our conversation. The Cape Cod Commission has numbers for that. That's the first thing I want to say. The other thing is we've got to remember, yes, housing is important, but people needing, for example, and this comes under infrastructure or wastewater, which is listed, they need help financing new septic systems. The ADU bylaw, which by the way, as of today, the town clerk said, the AG's office says it's good to go. Those units, however many of them there are, will need to have help for septic, or it should be possible to give them help for septic. So there are direct ways for funding housing, and then there are somewhat oblique ways that also affect people with less money. Thank you. Thank you for writing the letter if you wrote it.
I wrote it, yes. So I would just say that the county's already identified those as potential uses for the funds. This is just saying,
Yeah, I know.
You might want to consider this as well.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, we can try writing a separate one, or if somebody has I don't know, I would like to get this to them before they meet on the 29th. So I'm trying to just figure out if I have any wording for distributed to the towns. I don't know. Yeah.
Let's just write a separate letter about
Okay.
that. I think cramming it in here,
Yeah.
it might be a little bit too much.
Yeah. I think it's cleaner to do it separate.
You know, I think it would just take a few sentences to make this otherwise great letter work. It's only one issue, and the only thing I would hope for would be that there would be some reference to the fact that we get way more use than our actual population number, that we get way more use. And that affects housing.
The whole Cape, Helen.
You know, that would apply everywhere.
No, we have the National Seashore.
Well, so does Truro, so does Provincetown.
Yes, the Outer Cape. Remember, it was the 9th most visited, park in the country the year before last. Anyway, never mind. Thank you for writing the letter. I would vote for it tonight if you stuck in like a letter, a sentence or a little chunk of text that referred to our population and that we should be getting money in relation to what are, the impact of the people that come through here and, our residents. Thank you.
Sorry.
Janet?
So there's no guarantee, but I have been to a number of meetings, especially with the Cape and Islands Selectmen's and Councilors Association, where commissioners are on our meetings, and they are saying that they feel, some of them have said that they feel that this should go more towards need than population. So they're already thinking about it. A place like Hyannis that has very successful businesses year round do not have the same needs as little old Wellfleet. So they're thinking about the item need rather than the population. So.
Yeah, I mean, let's address distribution in a separate letter and just say, for this one, just say, we want you to also pay attention to housing as well.
Yeah, I'd like to reread the letter, but I know you want to get it out. By the way, Senator Sear is going to be discussing this December 9th with the Cape and Islands Selectmen's and
Yes.
our meeting.
They proposed allocating 3.5 million from the state, our ARPA funds to support housing on the Cape.
Yeah, okay. So just so you know that people are talking, yeah.
Yeah, so this is saying, the county has this large pot of money, you might want to dedicate some of it to housing as well.
Hey, Ryan.
Yep.
Just a suggestion, the final rhyme at the bottom.
Yep.
I would just suggest removing that just to keep it clean.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I just think, now that I don't like it, I just think as a formal letter, we should probably leave that out.
Okay. That's fine.
Is the rest of the board okay with that?
Well,
Yeah, a good idea.
But, it's not that important, but I liked it because it made it special. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
I move to approve the letter written as amended regarding the use of ARAP fund.
Second.
Yeah, county. Yeah.
To the
Okay.
Oh, to the county. Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Ryan, I.
Ellen, I. Thank you, Ryan.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
So, select board reports, I actually have one. The school committee is requesting a joint meeting with the select board to hopefully appoint a member to the school committee on what date was it, Charlie? Do you remember?
Was it either the 14th or the 15th?
Yeah,
I'll look right now.
yeah, I can check. It's the 14th. So the 14th, which is when our regularly scheduled meeting is, and they would just like us to start at 5:30. So it would just mean that we move up our meeting by half an hour to accommodate them. Is that okay with the board?
And this is December 14th, just to meet with the school committee?
We have a regular meeting on December 14th.
Yeah.
And they are very anxious to get to fill out the committee until the next election. And they are just requesting that we that we have the meeting at move it up by half an hour so that they can meet with us for yeah.
Okay, this isn't their annual come
No.
before us with their budget and everything.
No, this is
Okay.
just solely
Okay,
for
sorry. All right.
for appointing
Yeah. Okay, a new committee member. All
Yeah.
right, that's fine with me. I'm available and ready to go earlier.
Ryan,
Helen?
is this a regular meeting?
Yes.
Well, they can just come later in the meeting. We
No,
don't
they
have,
want them earlier.
oh, they want to come earlier. Move it up half an hour means not ahead, but earlier. Thank you. Okay, I can do that.
Okay. And then if, I mean, they seem to think that they have a few candidates that they're thinking about, but if anybody, they're also very interested in getting as many candidates as possible. So if anybody knows anybody, encourage them to apply as well. And that's it for me. Town administrator report.
No, I have.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I put my hand down. So briefly, today we heard back from the AG's office, as I said, about ADUs, but we also heard back quite a lot about the animal control bylaw, which, if you remember, Harry suggested and we voted on the entire text, most of which was already in existence. And there were issues with it. A couple things I need to report also is before town meeting, fairly a good number of weeks, when the ACO, the animal control officer, and I were working together drafting it, I was basically, he was dictating it and I was drafting it, and then we look up stuff and talk about it and make it better. But the point is,
So
apparently town council wrote a critique of the language we had at that point. And neither he nor I, neither the ACO or I ever saw it. So here's where we are. There are two issues. One is I want to report that there have been a number of contacts that have said that people are feeding wild coyotes. They're all wild. Feeding coyotes, and it's becoming an issue. And I briefly spoke with Chief Hurley and said, would it be possible at his convenience, if the select board thinks it's okay, for me to reach out to Officer Keogh, who has said to one of those people that called up and described a dangerous situation, we need ordinance, we need a bylaw for this because the state doesn't have anything. So there's that. And then there's also to go with him back into the animal control bylaw. Most of the things the AG had a problem with, and I'm just reporting here, were language that were already in it. He and I didn't even touch it. So that might be in the works, and I'm reporting that if you guys feel okay about it, we would be bringing language back to you eventually. What do you think?
Are you sure there's no state or town ordinance already prohibiting feeding wild animals?
No. Well, I'm going to check that. I know the park has it. And by the way, we will absolutely be sure that what we do coordinates with the park, because as you know, you can't, people don't know when they step onto town property or off it.
Yeah.
So I'm just reporting that to you and generally saying, hey, public, don't feed wild animals, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any others? I don't think so. So Charlie, town administrators report.
Okay, thank you. It's just a couple of more items. On December 8th, Wednesday, December 8th at 4 p.m., our health and conservation agent is, we're going to be holding a public hearing on the low-lying road project. So the purpose of the meeting is to obtain public input relative to improvements to various roads and educate the public about coastal flooding and demonstrate some new tools that show the risk to our community. So the Cape Cod Commission and Woods Hole Group will be involved in that. And then on the Herring River Restoration Project, there's lots of moving parts there. But Carol had set up a meeting with a number of local, federal, and restoration officials to begin the conversation about temporary and permanent easements that will be necessary for that project. And we involved KP Law in that conversation so that we can start to develop a draft warrant article for the 2022 annual town meeting for this purpose. The idea is let's get these articles drafted early so, the select board and the finance committee and the community can start talking about this early. So anyway, we're working on that. And then Hillary Lemos and I met with officials from Provincetown and Truro to talk about, regional health and conservation services. I know the town's been involved in these conversations in the past, but, things are changing. There's a number of vacancies out there. And we're trying to talk about, is there a way that we can work collaboratively together to improve services and really resiliency so we can support each other. But Hillary and a few other health agents are working on a grant application to help us evaluate that approach. And then I did execute a contract in the amount of $24,200 with GHD. And it's relative to the development of a plan for a preliminary soil analysis. So that has been executed. The dredging project is going well, by the way. Talked to Will Sullivan today. So that we're sort of, while we have a couple of issues relative to pilings that we're working on, the dredging project itself is going reasonably well. And then Rebecca roughly has been working with Hillary to hire a new assistant health and conservation agent. They do have a finalist. That person looks really very interesting, has a terrific background. We'll announce a name soon, but she has not notified her current employer yet. But anyway, the important issue is that we have a good finalist that they're very excited about, and hopefully we'll be able to provide the name and the background to the board relatively soon. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Quick question.
Any questions? Okay, Helen?
Yeah, Charlie, you referred to hiring, a sewer project. Is that related to the 208 plan?
Yeah. One of the items, I think we have an appropriation from 2019. It was $125,000, and it was to continue that whole wastewater planning project. But one of the things that we're going to have to do is have a backup plan
Yes.
for a preliminary sewer system, and this would be GHD is the contractor that would be doing that work.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought, just confirming.
Yep, of course.
Okay. Topics for future agendas. I think Helen's already brought up hers. Any others, Mike?
Yeah, I'd just like to try and get something going in terms of, discussing some bathroom renovations for the town of Wellfleet. The public bathrooms, we need to sort of come up with some kind of plan to renovate these things, maybe one at a time, one a year or something like that, because, even if it's just a matter of, a new sink and painting the bathroom, some of the bathrooms we have in the town, I'm not going to get into it, but we all know, if we've been to a public bathroom in this town, that,
Say no more.
yeah.
So, I mean, our next meeting, we'll have the capital improvement plan. So that might be a good time to add that.
The other thing was, and this is maybe correspondence, the Marina Advisory Committee wrote us a letter. And maybe I'd just like to request to be on their agenda. I don't know, maybe we could deal with that in correspondence.
Okay, yeah, we'll deal with that in correspondence, which is next anyways, so. I think that sounds good. Any others? Okay. So, on that, where are we? Minutes? Yes, Helen?
Lots of minutes, and I have a few very brief amendments, which I can direct us to. They're not complicated, so I didn't send them in red. But I don't have any for the first batch.
I had one for, which day did I say it was, Rebecca? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do, actually. I have it. I think it was the 2nd. Hang on.
Can we do them in order, please, Ryan?
You just said that you didn't have.
November 30th, I'm sorry. Wait, oh, just kidding. That's the select board agenda.
The
28th, yep.
And that's, Helen wasn't at the meeting, and so so for the members present, it's mine is Helen, and then the roll call vote for the first motion is 4-0. That's it. Helen?
Yeah, so the next set of minutes for November 2nd on page, hold on, I've got it marked. Top of the page, at the end of the item about the tax classification, the last sentence reads, Sumner stated that they were working on that, more than likely short-term borrowing will likely happen. And then I'd like to add the sentence, Wilson said that she appreciated getting this information, but that in her opinion, it wasn't on topic for this agenda item. And then Rebecca, although you note it later, at that point I left the meeting, so there should be a line that reads, Wilson left the meeting at 8:45, which you did pinpoint later on, so that from then on, I'm not present. Thank you. And then I have another amendment for one of the subsequent minutes.
Okay. Go ahead, Helen.
Okay, so this is, This is for November 9th. Okay. And it's on page 4. And it's under Long Pond. And you have here 2 select board members saying the same thing. Chair Curley and Wilson stated that they would prefer to replace the stairs. And these are my only amendments.
Okay, so I move to approve the minutes of October 26th, 2021 as drafted, and October 28th, 2021 as amended, November 2nd, 2021 as amended, and November 9th, 2021 as amended.
Ellen
Second.
second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
John, I.
Michael, I.
Brian, I.
Helen abstain.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. I move to adjourn, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Second.
1 second.
Yep.
We got to
Janet,
vote.
I.
I like this, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Nice touch.
Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Aye.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice holiday.
I love you all. Good night.
Good night.
Where are we? Where's Lee?